Welcome back to the Changemaker Podcast. I'm your host, Deke Copenhaver. Today, I've got some very special guests that I got to meet last month during Thanksgiving at Golden Harvest Food Bank while we volunteered to put together some boxes. But my guests are David and Ethan Sanborn. And David is a serial entrepreneur with 4 successful ventures under his belt. David is a proud dad who also loves turning innovative ideas into budding new businesses. Love this. Currently, David is following the leadership of his now 8-year-old son, Ethan, who inspired and co-founded Kiid Coffee, a pioneering children's nutrition brand. When David's not being bossed around by his pint-sized CEO, he leverages his decade-plus experience in product development and manufacturing to help other companies create innovative new products that customers love. Regardless of the business he's working in, David seamlessly blends creativity with strategic thinking, a skill he occasionally uses to negotiate bedtime. Gentlemen, thank you for being on the show. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome David and Ethan Sanborn.
Welcome to the Changemaker Podcast, hosted by Deke Copenhaver. Deke is the author of The Changemaker, a Forbes publishing book that has reached #1 on Amazon on multiple occasions and in multiple categories like management skills and total quality management. During this podcast, Deke interviews exceptional change-making leaders. Deke currently operates Copenhaver Consulting, where he helps local governments and other public organizations maximize their potential. He's also a sought-after public speaker. We hope that the Changemaker has an impact on you today and that you find takeaways that make you a better leader in your life. Now, here's Deke.
Thanks, Deke. We're excited to be here. Thank you for having us. It's great to see you again.
Yeah, it's great to see you too. But so I just want you to tell our listeners and our viewers a little bit about, Kiid Coffee. I mean, Ethan, we had the chance to meet recently, and I'm like, you may, I don't know that I know any 8-year-old CEOs of businesses, but you're very hands-on in this, aren't you? So how did all this come about?
Yeah, Ethan, you want to start? I mean, you can tell the really early origination of Kiid Coffee.
Okay. So first I broke my legs.
Start with a hook. We're storytelling as well.
So you broke your leg.
I broke both my legs, and then my dad and mom started looking into nutrition, and I wanted to make a business. So my dad got the idea of Kiid Coffee, kind of.
Well, not really me. You like coffee, the taste of coffee. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it actually, as it became sort of a nutrition product, we were just making it in our house, this idea of water processed decaffeinated coffee as a taste, right? It goes into milk, which has calcium for stronger bones. And then it was actually funny that the actual product was something that Ethan was already drinking, but when we said the idea of coffee for kids, Ethan was the one that put the two and two, like, we should act, because he had already talked about wanting to make a business. He's like, oh, we could sell coffee for kids. So it was actually truly his idea of, we could sell coffee for kids.
They say that necessity is the mother of invention, but you would never think about, okay, how did your business start? And for Ethan, you just say, well, I broke my leg. But I think in doing the research, because you and I, David, have spoken about this when we were together, you found that there are a lot of, nutritional needs that children have that they just effectively aren't getting from other places.
Yeah, it's true. And it was, I think the origin story, you're right. I mean, I work with a lot of businesses doing sort of innovation. And the truth is, some of these things come from the strangest places, but if they're really good, they're built on need. And after Ethan breaking his tibia, in the first leg, and then a year, 13 months later, in his other leg, we stopped and we said, oh, wow, we should look at this, right? And technically the doctor orthopedist said, well, maybe he needs more vitamin D, which it doesn't sit well with me, that response. And he said that, he said, because a lot of kids aren't getting enough. But then that, for me, as a sort of engineer, research, very like science focused. I'm like, well, the information's there because it's public. You can find published research all over the place. And so that kicking off what became sort of a rabbit hole of what do your kids get in terms of micronutrients per day? Parents think about protein, us, right? They think about, maybe like, less sugar, right? They think about these kind of bigger ideas, but you don't necessarily start thinking about how much calcium does your kid get in one day? How much iron do they get? And so those are actually possibly the more critical nutrients that actually you also don't get in kids' multivitamins oftentimes. So truly like the origin story really is out of necessity. So.
Yeah. Well, Ethan, in the entertainment world, they say if you're about to do a performance, they're like, break a leg, which means good luck. And you can be like, nah, I already broke 2 of them. But it's funny. I had a lady who is a pastor here so you guys know I'm a cancer survivor, esophageal cancer. But so now it's kind of like everybody that a friend or a family member gets cancer, they send them to me. So she had connected me with a gentleman by the name of Dr. Gill, but he has esophageal cancer too. But she texted me yesterday and said, oh, well, the doctor said that he needs to take these Flintstone vitamins, these children's vitamins, because they're good to do while you're getting your cancer treatments. Do you want some? And I just thought about it right now. I'm like, you don't need to give him Flintstones. You need to give him Kiid Coffee.
It's a possible alternative. That's very true, actually. It's funny that Flintstones, the original back in a long time ago when I was a kid, they tasted terrible because they had iron in them and things like magnesium, and then the chalkiness was the calcium. In the current form, all these gummies out there, they've removed the iron because it's actually technically you could overdose on iron as a kid eating these little teeny candies, right? Because you could eat them so fast. So they take iron out because it's a liability, even though it's critical. And then the calcium and magnesium don't taste that great either. So funny enough that we could be saying like, why don't we go back to the intelligent way to do this of look at what kids need and what we can actually supplement them with versus, like some of this, a lot of products today are just catered to make people want to take them as opposed to actually give them what they need. So,
yeah. Well, I'll tell you, really, literally, one of my favorite things I've done during the holiday season was to spend time with you guys at Golden Harvest Food Bank. And so, David, you were born in Augusta. You grew up in North Augusta. You went to Aquinas High School here. Then you graduated, went to Georgia Tech, and I believe you played football as well. But your mom, when you were really little, had you volunteer at Golden Harvest Food Bank. And we've got viewers and listeners all over the nation, all over the world, but it's just an amazing food bank here that serves the entire region, not just Augusta, but to see 3 generations, volunteering together, that was amazing to me because just what the behavior that your mom modeled for you, you're now modeling for Ethan.
Yeah. I mean, it was truly a great experience. And I'm as an adult now, as a parent, I look back and I think about the things that my parents tried to instill in me. There's lessons that you learn, all these different things, all the things that your parents said that you won't understand until you're a parent. And I understand them. Things like giving back, right? That, as a kid, you might think, oh, I'm going to do this for what, right? Like you don't necessarily understand because you're a kid. And even a lot of adults don't understand that, people have needs that you just can't possibly fathom, right? That they like somebody could not have food, not have enough food, right? Especially in today's age. So, having that experience to go there to build the boxes, I think Ethan had actually a lot of fun because Golden Harvest gave us the opportunity to really get hands on, which Ethan's like me. He's a builder. He wants to like make something, see the results. And, that's very different than a lot of giving where you might just give, financially to a cause or something like that. So I think Golden Harvest is such an amazing organization. And it was a really great experience. My mom also, she's back in the Augusta area now after having moved away for over 15 years. And so I think she's actually going to be much more involved as well, kind of having forgotten about, some of the organizations in the area. She just moved back 2 years ago, I think. So it's she's just getting now back involved. So it was just an excellent experience.
Well, Ethan, I've always said leadership doesn't come with an age limit, right? I'm like, it doesn't matter how old you are, you can really lead. And I think so often, though, people will say, oh, you're too young to do that. But how did it feel for you? And even sometimes in our own families, because people don't want us to get hurt, they don't want us to take a risk. But when you came up with this idea to have your dad not say, oh, you're just a kid, we'll do that when you're this age, to really encourage you in this, how did that feel? I mean, that's got to feel great that your dad is not just saying you're 7 years old. He's saying, yeah, let's do this.
What do you think?
I think it was cool. Like, just like doing something that most other kids don't do.
And having the opportunity, right, to learn that experience, right? I mean, we don't do a lot of packing of boxes actually in Kiid Coffee because we have a warehouse to do that.
Yeah.
But getting hands-on, right? I mean, you actually enjoyed moving, right? You had the opportunity to move, to actually pick up the food and move it and see everything that was going into the box. Did you enjoy that?
Mm-hmm.
Well, and that's one thing, and I'll tell you, Ethan, I always tell people that part of good leadership is not ever asking anybody to do something you wouldn't do yourself. And so I think to be out there and packing the boxes yourself, it gives you an appreciation that as a CEO, there are people that have to work your warehouses to box up your product and everything, but it gives you that empathy and compassion towards the people that really are supporting you in the business as the CEO.
Yeah, I mean, and I think this, for Ethan, an opportunity, as the first try sort of at business, right? And I mean, this Kiid Coffee is early. It's a product that we do have like customers that love. Ethan loves it. Ethan actually, drinks Kiid Coffee every day, basically, which is the biggest tell, right? I mean, as a kid, like you have to. I think you should truly love your product. There are a lot of people that sell products that they don't actually love themselves, which is mind blowing to me. But yeah, I mean, the fact that the opportunity to like kind of just get started, I feel like my role and as Ethan is to help him like learn the leadership side of it.
Yeah.
Is to say, there's certain things that Ethan's not going to be able to do that we either I can help him with, or we have to like learn how to delegate as well. But at the same time, the very hands-on, what's very difficult today are things like, one very specific thing is sort of the marketing and like that side of the business that, I think businesses want to see who are behind them now. And so Ethan, he doesn't get as much involved in the packing and shipping because there's a lot of services that now sort of do that part of the business. Yeah. That's kind of an almost automated thing it's readily available, like to help your business grow. But on the side of marketing, on the side of product testing, formulating, and even visiting manufacturing facilities, right? Ethan, you've been to the factory, and we've gone through and looked at, and we're looking at quality. So how does the packaging look, right? How does the product? Do we check batch testing, right, to make sure that it comes up the line the right way? So there's a lot of things that Ethan can actually get involved in, that a lot of people probably would say like, well, you're 7, you're 8. He's 8 now. So, but yeah, he is 8 now.
But I think if you love your product, it's easier to sell. And I think that gives an authenticity to it. I was in real estate and development, and I had as a rule of thumb, I would never sell somebody a piece of property I wouldn't buy myself. Then I ran a nonprofit, and I'm like, and served on a bunch of boards. I'm like, I would not ask anybody to give money to a nonprofit that I wouldn't give to myself. And so when I was mayor of Augusta, economic development was easy for me because I'm like, I believe in my product, which is Augusta. But so the fact that you love your product, Ethan, you can really speak to it. It's not just like saying, oh, it's great, you need to buy it. But I mean, saying, no, this is why I like it, because it's delicious. It's nutritious. I drink it every day. So you can really, you're the CEO, but you're also a salesman for your product.
You are, right?
Yeah.
Ethan's also quiet, which
yes. Yeah. Well, man, that I will tell you, Ethan, when I was your age, so I was so painfully shy, I couldn't go to birthday parties. if you can believe that. Now I speak to thousands of people and everything. But it's, once again, I want to just say, I've often said that the only power that real true leaders should concern themselves with is the power to inspire. So I would imagine, because I've told your story to so many people since we met, and my friends are like blown away. I'm like, tell your kids, show if they have an interest in starting a business, point to Ethan. So I bet you are inspiring younger people all the time. And do you feel that? Do kids say, hey, how'd you do that?
Not many people say, hey, how did you do that? Like,
Not yet. Not yet.
I think it's interesting. I think, in one way, parents see the opportunity to be entrepreneurs, whether you're driving an Uber, right, and you're working for yourself.
Yeah.
I mean, there's plenty of people that do that as their main source of income. Doing side gigs now, side hustles, as they'll call it, being a graphic designer, working from your house for yourself, making over 6 figures for something that's a skill that doesn't have to go to you don't have to necessarily go to a college to learn that. It's just practice, right? Experience. And so, what's interesting is that kids, I think, are seeing it, they're seeing it more. I think adults are seeing it as much as kids. And what's so fascinating to me is that, in a way, Kiid Coffee we certainly want to help kids learn how to start a business. But when we say kids, you're also talking to adults that are standing there thinking, oh man, my job's insecure, but there's these opportunities to go out and, make money for yourself, right? So truly, kind of remove yourself from like the corporate culture that's been built in the United States for a long time. And actually, create your own opportunities. And the same thing for nutrition as well, which is interesting because we now have a lot of adults drinking Kiid Coffee, as you mentioned.
Yeah.
Like, oh, there's 1 milligram of caffeine, so I don't need all the caffeine anymore, right? But I get the coffee taste, but I get vitamins, especially older now, calcium being more important, osteoporosis. You only have, so many chances to get calcium. Like, adults usually don't drink that much milk anymore. So that's not the only source of calcium, but you have to start thinking consciously of like, how do you get, certain nutrition sources? And these conversations now they're bleeding over from kids to adults as well. And, I do think the kids they've certainly responded. Ethan, you were able to take samples to school before. He's taken samples to school, and we hope to expand, kind of programs like that where we have sort of single servings where it's not so costly to just hand out product. But yeah, there's all kinds of opportunities as well for, I think, kids to kind of get a taste of it, right? Of that, their first lemonade stand or something like that.
Well, I was thinking about it before we started the interview that really entrepreneurship and volunteering are both problem solving effectively. And it's interesting in the wake of Hurricane Helene here in Augusta, I've been working with a bunch of different organizations, but I've said, I think that this disruption has brought people out of their comfort zones. So we have had a 20% poverty rate for a long time. And I'm like, with all the resources that we have, we should be able to move the needle on that. But so many people I talk to, I think entrepreneurs and volunteers see things different. They see there's a problem, I want to go solve it. But so many people I talk to, I'm like, I think if we sequence our resources together in the right way, we can start to move the needle and help the people in our community, like the folks served by the Golden Harvest Food Bank that need it the most. But so many people are like, 20% poverty rate. How do you do that? I'm like, you have to take one step at a time. For any of these, for an entrepreneurial endeavor, it's not like you're going to change the world overnight, but patient persistence. And like when Mike Furman came up with the idea for the Golden Harvest Food Bank, he just saw that there were people that were hungry in Augusta that need to be fed. I bet he didn't see it growing into, you guys that's an amazing facility, but it starts with that one idea and some patient persistence and being willing to take a leap of faith.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so true. Do you get for Ethan, and for us, it was 2 broken legs, a second broken leg in such a short amount of time. in the case of a natural disaster, it's sort of a wake up call, right? To say, oh, that's right. Something else is happening, and I just wouldn't have seen it driving, with my busy schedule every day.
Yeah.
But, I think for my parents, being in Augusta, they lost power for around 10 days or something like that.
Yeah.
You saw that day, I drove down the day after the storm, and they're out in Evans. So I didn't have to get into Augusta until I went to my brother-in-law's house, kind of in the hill area, Walton Way, where like there's no trees that exist anymore, and every house has a tree on it.
Yeah.
But in the Evans area, even that area, gas lines, like 100 people long, standing outside because they didn't want to drive their cars. And immediately, those situations to me, like, they make you think then about, wow, there's, it's not just my own little bubble that I'm in, and I just kind of get into my routine, and exactly what you just said, speaking specifically to poverty and food. Wait until you go without a meal or two, and you're like, oh man, most of us have 3 meals a day minimum, and so that event for sure. We can only hope that the positive catalyst is to say there's awareness, Golden Harvest stepping up, and from my point of view, we want to help them like spread the word of their mission. Say, look, you can go volunteer. Aquinas is a school that's nearby.
Oh, yeah.
Kids can go there and volunteer. And at the end of the day, that awareness helps a lot of people. It can help a lot of people. So,
well, we had an event honoring our Hurricane Helene heroes, to honor the first responders, the average citizens, on the Augusta Commons downtown recently. But the group, as we were putting this together, said that literally everybody we had, so Ethan, people from all over the United States came to help Augusta. Literally all over the nation. And to a person, these people who handle disasters for a living said, we have never seen a community come together like the people in our area did. And if that doesn't make you feel good, I don't know what does. That's the way community is supposed to work. We're supposed to help each other. But I've got to ask you this question, Ethan. So we were at Golden Harvest for like 3 hours. So we toured the facility, we packed boxes, we did interviews, and you're 8 years old. I'm like, my 8-year-old self would have been going, Dad, when are we leaving? You are the most patient person in the world. Where does patient young person, where does that come from? Is that like a superpower?
I don't know. Like, I'm not always super patient, but sometimes I am.
Well, you certainly were that day. I was just so impressed. But that inspired me too. I'm like, I when things drag on to me, I'm looking at my watch, but I'm like, particularly if you're doing something for a good cause, it shouldn't be just a drive-by and a photo op. You need to really invest the time, and you invested a lot of time that day. And I'm so proud of you. I said, Ethan is my new hero.
Hey, thank you.
Thanks.
So I got to ask you this though too. I was mayor of Augusta for 9 years. Would you ever consider running for mayor of Atlanta or Augusta or any place?
I don't know. Like, maybe not. I'm not sure.
Well, you've got a company to run, so you don't need to be worried about that right now.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that Ethan, as he says, he has patience sometimes and not others. As a parent, as your kids at home can act very differently than the way they are at school and things like that. But Ethan and his little brother, although they're very rambunctious at home and might not have a ton of patience, especially with each other, they are very commended on their attentiveness, listening, and those things, which I'm very proud. Obviously proud of him for many reasons, but I think Ethan really, for whatever reason, when he's out and he's, I'm not sure exactly where he gets it from, but he's certainly, wants to, make sure that he is a good example. I'll have to say, I was at his class party today, so I can say that from watching that, once the teacher says something, Ethan listens. And that's not necessarily the case for a lot of the kids that are running around in elementary school. So,
well, unfortunately, it's not the case for a lot of adults at times too. But I just think that's, to be nice and polite and respectful and everything, we can all learn from each other that's just a good way, and to treat people the way that you want to be treated. So, Ethan, I'm so glad to call you my friend now. And I've talked you guys up to all my friends. So I can't wait for them to watch this so that they can get to know you a little bit too. You've got a lot of fans in Augusta, man.
Thank you, Deke. Yeah, I mean, we are grateful for the support that we have from family, from friends, from community. I obviously am originally from Augusta, but I've lived in Atlanta for a long time now. Haven't been at Georgia Tech, and it's interesting that Ethan's school and the community here as well are also very supportive on the side of Kiid Coffee is like an idea or a business or something like that. But it's definitely been great to have that support sort of from community and of course family as well. But no, we really appreciate the verbal support as well, because there's not so many there's nothing better in terms of I want to call it marketing, but there's nothing better to help spread the word than people talking about it, right? As opposed to an advertisement that you'll see all day long, billboards and on your phone now, of course. So,
well, and so part of this podcast is, to show people from all walks of life around the world who are doing amazing things. Because sometimes, just what you see in the mainstream media, we're horribly divided and everything. I'm like, but I like to introduce people to guys like you that are like, no, look at this. I mean, these guys are doing amazing things. So thank you for inspiring me. And as we get down towards the end, I just have two questions I like to ask my guests. One is, where can people find you guys?
On our website.
On our website, which is kiidcoffee.com, which is KIID coffee, COFFEE.com. And anywhere else?
At one store, maybe
we
two
do.
stores.
We have stores now carrying Kiid Coffee as well, but also Amazon now. But yeah, we're slowly sort of expanding, and there are small like specialty retailers actually starting to carry Kiid Coffee as well as coffee shops. So,
well, I can't wait to watch how all this plays out, because I'm a fan myself. But my last question is, on a daily basis, what puts a smile on your face and brings joy to your heart?
I'm not sure.
Well, and the beautiful thing is, you're smiling as you say that. So maybe it's being on my podcast.
Yeah, maybe, huh? I think it's funny you ask that question. Of course, for me, it's family. It's my kids, right? It's honestly the time to be here actually for them. I mean, I've if anything from COVID, the blessing was work from home has just become more, sort of normalized. But a lot of days we wake up, we make breakfast, we have Kiid Coffee together, right? We're rushed, but we're not in a huge rush, right? We at least have, 15, 20 minutes of time together. Ethan comes home from school. He just got off the school bus. I'm able to be here. His mom is also actually at home most of the time, but on conference calls the vast majority of the day. But yeah, for me, it's family and the time, the opportunity to actually spend time with them, because I think that is very taken for granted, or over time, a lot of parents aren't able to be there during the day, or to have as much time with their kids. So,
well, guys, thank y'all for being amazing guests. I'm so glad that we met. I look forward to continuing the dialogue, hopefully getting together, home and away series. Maybe we'll see you in Atlanta, maybe back in Augusta, but just keep doing what you're doing because it's amazing, inspirational work. So thank y'all so much.
Deke, thank you. Have a great day.
All righty. That's all that's all the time we got. Dropping the mic and we are out. Hey guys, thanks for listening to or watching the Changemaker podcast today. Greatly appreciate it. If you're listening and you want to see the video, you can subscribe to our YouTube channel at Deke Copenhaver. That's pretty easy to remember, I would think. But really, we also want to remind you to like, subscribe, rate across all platforms, download. And if you're looking for a coach, a speaker, or anything, you know where to find me. Just email me at me@dekecopenhaver.com. And thanks so much for listening.